Hello everyone! Welcome to Town to City. This is a demo for an upcoming city building game that I became kind of obsessed with. I spent hours in this demo, which is why you're actually hearing me narrate over the footage because I had almost 4 hours of footage from this game to condense down for you. So yeah, this is just me going through the tutorial. So I hope you don't mind this style where I'm narrating over my past self. But yeah, this game was sold to me as being kind of like Tiny Glade, except you actually have like little villagers and people moving in to the places that you build to take care of and meet their needs and whatnot. But yeah, we have this huge landscape to work with. I was trying to figure out, I wanted to use the sort of like natural shape of the lake and how nice and like curved it was, and make the paths that I built kind of fit that vibe, the natural vibe. This is also because I suck at making straight lines. So it suits me to make them curved. And yeah, this is a little swatch of the different path types that are available. I honestly did not use much of a variety in the end, which you'll see, but I really liked how the brick path looked with the what is the word? The curb going around? I'm not sure what the word is, but you see what I mean, right? But yes, this is me attempting to make a road shape that makes sense. But I wanted to follow the shape of the lake as best as I could, and then sort of follow the slope around to the other lake. The sounds in this game too are so good. After spending so long in it, I think that I can say the path and the sound of the buildings being constructed are my favorites. But yeah, this is what I started out with, and then it was time to actually build the houses to go on the road. But this interesting thing about this game is you have like a budget that you can see in the bottom right corner to manage, and then different building types that like affect the overall score of the town. Here's me just cycling through all the different color variations and figuring out controls. I believe there is going to be a sandbox mode in the future of this game, but it was kind of nice, kind of interesting to have like some constraints or like a sort of guideline to follow initially. And like I'm not a city planner, you know, I don't know anything about how to like space houses out or where to put things, so I was still kind of mostly going by design. Look at this. The construction animation and sounds, they're so good. I liked it a lot. And it does this for each building in like different ways, you'll see. But yeah, I mostly, you know, tried to make things as pretty as possible rather than functional. But by the end, I was kind of, I learned. I learned you have to actually plan the city a little bit and build neighborhoods and whatnot. But, you know, starting off, I just wanted to keep everything close by and just see how things went. And then with this house constructed, we were able to move on to the next step where people actually get to move into our new town. And I love this little animation that plays whenever you upgrade. I believe it's a reference to another game by the same studio. They made Station to Station, so it's nice that they can incorporate it in this too. But yeah, here is our first family. probably a little confused as to why they're just arriving in a field with like half a path, but you know, they placed our faith. They placed their faith in us, and hopefully it'll pay off. We would like a regular, comfortable house. Yeah, the Lemoine family is where it all began. Which house did I give them? The yellow. I think the yellow and white houses were my favorite colors, like favorite variation. And then yes, so this is so cool. They give you all this different information about the family and like their mood, what they would like you to add, or you know, what things they need. Which a big part of it is these food buildings or food stalls that I unlocked next. But I didn't realize decoration points ended up playing such a big part in the end. But yes, now we have 2 market stalls. And these are so cute too. I love the voxel, I think that's the word for it, the voxel art style. It kind of reminds me of, I think this game strikes the balance for me where I like the look of things like Minecraft, but I find I have a really hard time building in Minecraft, like making things brick by brick. I like this thing of having like pre-existing paths and tiles and different building types that you can place down, like these stalls. I think I prefer decorating to building is probably the key difference. But yeah, we keep getting families showing up, curious. And then you have to add workers to each of your stalls and whatnot. So you actually get to employ the town. It's a lot more involved than I initially realized. Like when people told me it's like Tiny Glade with villagers, I honestly just thought they were going to be decoration. But they actually end up playing, you know, playing a role in your town and like making everything function, which I think is very cool. And yeah, we have warehouses to receive resources from the station and then transport them to commerce buildings. These were interesting for me. Later, when I had to build more than the initial warehouse, I had a bit of trouble rearranging things to like make sure things were being delivered to every stall. But yeah, I like the look of them though. This little building is really cute. And I thought I thought it had to be like right by the train station at first, which is why I'm placing it so close by. I was like, okay, they have to be able to get the goods in right away to the train station, to the warehouse. Turns out that's not the case, but I think it looks kind of cute sitting in this little corner. And then I had to adjust the road, of course, after the fact. Here's me trying to recreate the same. It's honestly harder to recreate a non-straight line than to make a straight line, because this game actually has a line tool when you want to like make a specific shape or make sure the road is dead straight, which came in handy at certain points, but I think we did an okay job of recreating the road. Maybe. And then after a few minutes of being very nitpicky and adjusting the roads and whatnot, I got everything back to the way it had been, with a little more room to breathe for each house. Although I was gonna have to add a lot more at some point, I knew, but for now, the people who got here first, you know, they can enjoy having some nice spacious areas around them. But yeah, here you see how the warehouses work, where it's brought into the warehouse and then it's delivered to each stall. But I think my assumption was that they were much more limited than they are. But actually the warehouse goods can travel pretty far. But yeah, so as you can see, having multiple different shops increases happiness. And it turns out, yeah, each family then earns you the income, which is what's on the bottom right. So yeah, it's pretty handy. You kind of, I honestly didn't have to worry too much about money at all. I don't think there was ever a time where I couldn't afford anything. But yeah, and then we unlocked decorations. Yay. The best part of these games. And they're really cute too, even like the initial decorations and whatnot that you get. I really like them. And I ended up using a lot of the same, like a lot of the initial early pieces that you get remain some of my favorites, like the simple lanterns and wooden fencing and whatnot. But yeah, I thought let's do the station first, since that's where people are arriving to. We gotta make a good impression of our little town here. But yeah, I tried really hard. So the thing about this game that I forgot to mention is also, it is gridless. So there's no, aside from like snapping buildings to the path and whatnot, there's no like kind of set place for like where to, it's hard to like make things symmetrical and make them perfectly uniform and whatnot, unless you like really, really try. But it kind of helped me get over my tendency to like want to make everything very perfectly symmetrical and nice. I still fell into that a little bit, which you'll see throughout, but yeah, I don't know. It was kind of nice to not be able to like perfectly place things every time and kind of force myself to go out of my comfort zone a little bit. But yeah, I love the little benches and whatnot, and I got super into decorating everyone's houses later. But yeah, so here you can see we are at 69% happiness, and once your happiness stays over 60, people keep arriving in, which I was not a great mayor. I would ignore a lot of people who came while I was like, no, sorry, I'm busy decorating. So I did often end up with people waiting at the train station for quite some time, but they don't seem to mind. Everyone is very patient, thank goodness. But for now, I decided I would let these 5 families move in, or well, another 2 on top of our existing families. And I don't know why I was already like packing houses in very closely here, because I think I decided this would be, I can't remember at what point I decided to like cut my roads off and like decide where to stop, because they give you a huge landscape to work with in the demo. Like you could honestly play this for, I played for like 4 or 5 hours, but you could sink so much time into this game. So I don't know why I was already worrying about space when there's so much of it, but yeah, here's our beautiful town so far. We had to add a few more workers to cover the demand for food and whatnot. And oh yeah, this thing was cool. So you can build a research center, and the building reminds me, you'll see in a second, but the building reminds me so much of, I think it's, oh my gosh, of course his name is escaping me now, Robbie from Breath of the Wild. It reminds me so much of his little observatory tower looking thing. Do you see what I mean? Do you see the vision? And then I accidentally placed it down too early, but thankfully it's very easy to move things in this game. But yeah, this building was very cool. It lets you, this is basically what gets you all of your upgrades and whatnot. So don't be like me. It took me forever to staff people. Like I kept this so understaffed for way too long. But once you add a bunch of people, you can unlock things pretty quickly. And the reason I'm putting it so far away is because at this point I had decided that I wanted, look at that line. See what I mean about not being able to make straight lines? But yes, I wanted to make a sort of central area and have like this pretty building as a viewpoint, or like a sort of focal point. So I decided to put it way further back, probably than I should have. but oh well. So this is the research menu where you can unlock everything, and you kind of accumulate these points over time, basically, as long as someone is working in the research station. So they give you the fish stall for free, which is nice. But yeah, I really wanted to get the flower and plant decorations as soon as possible. But first you have to get 50 residents to upgrade your city. So that was the first big goal, to upgrade from a mere 5 houses to a little miniature town. But yeah, so I wanted to make some sort of like, what made sense to me, since everybody's using the same stalls. So I thought it would be cute to have a sort of central marketplace where everyone gathers and can like get all of their different poultry, cheese, fish, etc. Little did I know, I'm looking at this now, I made it so small initially. This ended up becoming a much bigger area in the end, but yeah, I don't know. It reminded me of going to like a Saturday market in my hometown and how like there's fruit stalls, there's people with all their local goods. Obviously these are mostly food, but yeah, I think I liked this idea of having a central hub. Oh, and I was hiring too many people apparently. Oh yeah, you also have to make sure to keep your warehouse stocked up with workers to actually transport the goods. I kept forgetting about that every time I made one, and then I was like, what do you mean they're not getting enough? What could be going wrong? So yeah, I added a fish stall, and then I think I was just hoping that I would unlock another type of stall as soon as possible to make it symmetrical. Here you can see me trying to place this wooden arch down to give the villagers some nearby decoration, but I found it kind of tricky to get this wooden arch to work on a diagonal, and then I kind of thought it might look strange to only have it on one side, so I ended up moving these to the marketplace. And again, look at this line. I don't know how past me thought that I was making straight lines. But oh well, I think this did end up getting fixed later, but yeah. And then here I decided I would close off this little neighborhood for now, and then try to find somewhere else to build another bunch of houses. Mostly because the area behind these houses where the lake is, I felt like it would be kind of tricky to like transition into there, so I kind of cut myself off for now in the demo and didn't want to worry about it. So here is our little neighborhood for now, and this path, okay, good. I did end up fixing it. Oh yeah, so here is where I decided, I think I realized I would have to make the marketplace a little bit bigger, especially because I ended up with a lot of roads leading out from this central area, which I probably should have foreseen. It did get even bigger than this in the end, but you can see the beginnings. I had kind of forgotten about the research menu at this point, but thankfully when I checked it, I had enough points to get the vegetable stall and then the building decoration upgrade. Which, this ended up being one of my favorite features, although I think I got so carried away with landscaping, I forgot about it for a while. And then I decided to make a sort of branch off path from the marketplace, and I was trying to follow like the natural slope again of the cliffs and the land. Ended up going way too close to the lake here, which I patched up. But yeah, I feel like intentionally trying to make natural looking spaces can sometimes be a lot harder than you would imagine. But oh well, I think it turned out okay in the end. Family, oh yeah. So at this point, we started getting families with like specific wants and needs, but I was too busy decorating to notice them, so. But yeah, the house decoration in this game reminded me a lot of Tiny Glade, where you're sort of like, I kept moving items around just to like figure out if I could do, you know, if I could make certain things work or hang on walls, like the flower planters and stuff. And I was obsessed with putting these tiny benches in everyone's houses. But yeah, these families, one wanted a house near water, and then I don't know what the other... Oh yeah. This was perfect. They wanted a house with flower decorations, so I ended up putting them right in here. And I think I didn't realize, I thought just giving them like the kind of bare minimum amount of decoration would be sufficient. It turns out when they say they want flower decorations, they want a lot of them, so a tip if you decide to play or try out the demo, which you should. Let me know what you guys think of it if you do. But yeah, at this point I had like yet another stall, and I realized I was going to have to expand this marketplace again because this was not gonna work. It was not possible, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, I thought about closing it off with the fruit stall, but there was no space. And I was gonna need even more room, so we ended up making a super huge marketplace in the end. And it kind of ended up defeating the original purpose of why I put the research building so far away. It ended up being a lot closer to the town than I had planned for. Because I think initially I was so in love with how it looked like that building from Breath of the Wild that's up on a big hill that I kind of wanted to do the same and put it a little bit out of the way. But oh well, I think it's nice also to have it be central. Also the line tool, shout out to the line tool for saving my life when it comes to making straight lines and making it look like somebody actually built this. Yeah, I think this looks good still. Need to move that arch though, past Mori. And then I spent probably a little bit too long rearranging or redrawing a lot of the roads and paving and whatnot. But I had acquired enough research points to get the market upgrade, which turned out to be super handy in terms of like keeping the residents happy, that they could reach, I think it expands the range of houses that they can serve. But now that we have more people, we also had to give everyone else a job. And it turns out if one of your town residents seems upset, despite, you know, having a lot of nice stuff near them and access to things, give them a job. Giving them a job seems to make the residents very, very... It gives them a lot of happiness points right away, it seems like. So make sure you have full employment in your town. But yeah, I started filling in this road, and this sort of became the next neighborhood in the town, so we're really moving up in the world. But I remember thinking, like, how am I possibly going to fit 50 people in this town? And I think I ended up with like over 100 by the time I put the demo down. But it does seem... It's definitely daunting at first. It's like the first big task that you get. Oh yeah, I decided to fence off this little lake area because I knew I was going to put houses along the path facing the lake, but you know, there's kids here, and last thing we need is a child running off and going for a swim. So I like the wooden fencing, and it also gives decoration points, nice, easy decoration points. So it kind of ended up serving as a 2-in-1. Child safety plus decoration points to keep everybody happy while I build. And at this point, I had unlocked more decorations, some more natural plants and potted trees and whatnot, which I was very happy about because they included these sunflowers, which I have a best friend that I always think of when I see sunflowers or see sunflower motifs anywhere. They just remind me of her. But yeah, I thought the yellow flowers also would look good against against the red house, so that became kind of a staple as I decorated the town. Anybody with a red house got yellow flowers and anything that looked like it would make a nice contrast. I also ended up adding them to the marketplace, and it turns out this was a good idea in retrospect because something I only learned later on is that the workplace and also the commute decoration matters a lot for your townsfolk. So you want them to have pretty things to look at while they actually make their way to work, which, I mean, I think that's fair enough. And then I started adding more of these lanterns, or not lanterns, what is the word? Street lamps, between all the houses, again, as kind of easy decoration and also just functionality. Why not, you know? So this is how we were looking at the point that I was able to upgrade the town. So we had our 50 residents with 66% happiness. A couple needs still to be addressed, but yeah. At this point we were ready to move up to the next stage of being a hamlet. And they have a really cute cutscene for it, of course. So cute! I like that the station keeps upgrading too. And this French song in the background is very beautiful too. And so our dwelling became a hamlet, and we unlocked apparel, a new need for the villagers, which I thought was cool. And then of course more research options. And as you can see, the villagers kind of start taking like a more active role in the game with requests and whatnot. But look at all these buildings that we have to play around with. Yay. I was excited. But yeah, we'll address this Milan. We're all excited about the potential for our town to grow into a prosperous city. Everything's going swell, though some of the new arrivals are experiencing issues. Oh, I'm sorry. Have I not been doing a good enough job building the town from scratch? I suggest building yourself a house first, one with a big mailbox. That way we'll know how to reach you if we ever have any requests for our little town. And there will be many requests, trust. But yes, so our next quest was to build the mayor's home, where I'll live. And as I am so prone to doing, I promptly forgot about this quest for a little while. But in my defense, it was because I noticed that I had quite a few villagers who were a little bit upset with me for various reasons. Largely, I think it was to do with their housing not being pretty enough. They didn't have some nice decorations and whatnot. They have a bit of a further walk to the market stalls and things like that, so I decided I would treat them to some potted plants and whatnot. And then after decorating their houses a bit more, I hired a couple more people to work at the research center just to keep them happy and keep the points coming in. I also finally bought the trees and bushes decorations, which was well overdue actually. And I had enough to buy all of these, and I don't know why I didn't go for the more decorations with the park, but I ended up kind of preemptively buying the clothing store, which was a very good idea as it turns out. But at this point I finally remembered that I am the mayor and I need a house, so I got around to building this. And I settled on giving myself I wanted to have like a nice view of the lake, so I ended up putting it kind of close by the town that I'm still within reach. But I did spoil myself a little bit and give myself a nice view. And an easy way into town to buy my own food and whatnot. And look at, there's something about the buildings coming together in this game that's so satisfying, especially one that's as tall as the mayor's home. I love love it. And the building itself is really pretty. I'm not sure what the name of the architectural style is or anything, but I know this is like 19th century Mediterranean. But yes, very gorgeous. And Milan was very happy with me for building it, which is always nice. I spent, as you can see, way too long into the night trying to fix this path and make it look sort of man-made, but still curving nicely. And then I just settled for how it was. But Milan was very happy. She thought my house looks great. I'm sure the first requests will start coming in soon. We're all thrilled to have such an involved mayor in town. Little do they know, I'm so distractible. Don't worry if it takes a while to address any of our requests. We're patient townsfolk. Thank goodness. And yeah, at this point, I realized we have 2 more families arriving, and we're gonna continue to have families arriving, and this existing road I had was already pretty full, so it was time to branch out yet again. But I decided to go from the road to the research center this time, and we'd build a sort of uphill neighborhood. I probably could have packed more houses into the existing space, but I think at the time I was trying to be a generous mayor and give everybody a nice stretch of land, but that did not hold up for the duration of the demo. But yes, here I was trying to make another natural but not too all over the place path to put the next set of houses on. And again, I don't know why I kept making such short roads and like not going all the way initially, but there were a lot of roads and things that I ended up redoing behind the scenes or lengthening or adjusting slightly to fit more houses onto them. But for now, I think I assumed that this was going to be a small neighborhood. She didn't know. And then of course, some decorations with our new trees and bushes. I really like there was like quite a variety in size and slight variations of all the plant life, which I was fond of. The only thing I struggle with in games like this is making the wildlife, or you know, things like trees and bushes and stuff, like getting the right amount of them and making them look naturally occurring. I feel like it's so hard for some reason. But yes, I decided to give our new little neighborhood a lot more decoration. And I didn't notice it at first, but looking back at it, I can see it now. There are so many little things you can do by like moving plants around. Even it didn't occur to me for so long that I could decorate the bottom floor of the houses. And it took me, when I finally did realize, I was like, oh my goodness, how did this take me like 3 hours to try or to stumble across? But for now, everybody would have really nice balconies, so they can live with that, maybe. Because I had so many people working at the research center, I was able to buy a lot of the shops and stuff very quickly, so I went for the shoemaker and the bakery because they seemed like the prettiest buildings to me. And then as I was looking around, getting to make more houses, I realized I had a request, my first one. Hello, Mayor. Hello, Tina. When I moved here, I didn't realize I would have to survive without my favorite tailor. She kind of looks like Belle from Beauty and the Beast. I fear I'm getting desperately out of fashion. Would you be a dear and build a clothing boutique in our little town? Of course. And make sure they sell red clothes, dear. I hear it's the latest trend in the big city. So, it turned out to be a good thing I had bought the clothing shop in advance, because I had it ready to go. But then, the trouble was where to put it. And it's tricky because they generally want you to... Whoever gives you the request normally wants the shop or whatever it might be placed pretty close to them or within reach of them. So what I ended up going for was I decided to add it on to the marketplace area and really make this like a town center of sorts. So yeah, at this point, my dream of having the research center be far, far away was long gone. Maybe in another save, who knows, maybe I'll get to do it and put it up on the hill. But yeah, I decided this would be a good place for the... I keep wanting to say the tailor, but the clothing store for now. And it's so cute too. I like the building model. I think here I was trying to figure out how to set the color of the apparel, not realizing that it was an upgrade that I had to purchase. So I went ahead and got some workers on the go, and then eventually realized I had to purchase the upgrade. I don't know why red is the trend, but there you have it. I'm not too fond of wearing red myself usually. I feel like wearing red reminds me of Christmas too much. So once I had the clothing set, I was trying to make a path basically to the back of the town where I would put warehouses for the future, for this apparel shop, and then also for any future shops in this town center area. I think the one at the station was like more than enough for the food stalls, but it was not going to be enough to cover the tailors, the clothes shop, and future like bakery and whatnot. So I was trying to build our warehouses up here, and I think I was trying to build or trying to make it like a sort of I wanted to see what it would be like to have the path underneath the buildings, like if you were to build them on a plaza or whatever the word is. But it didn't end up working quite as I had hoped, since they kind of all the buildings have like a little piece of land surrounding them, and I feel like for the warehouse it just didn't quite look the way I expected it to or wanted to. And so I ended up getting rid of the whole thing. There's like a brief moment where you can see me trying to make it work, I think, and then I realized no, the grass is gonna hook up near the front step, no matter what I do. And then everything was finally ready for Tina's approval. 1,000 thanks, Mayor. You're welcome. Even those big city folk would be envious of my beautiful garments. They also, yeah, I was surprised. They gave you rude options to pick. My Mayor, aren't you handing out compliments today? Much like she is handing out paychecks today. Then I went back to decorating to keep everybody happy on their way to work or the market stalls and whatnot. And I will say one thing that I hope changes or gets added as a feature in the full game would be the ability to like click and hold and place a lot of flowers and plants like continuously. At the moment you have to place everything one by one, like every patch of flowers, every individual flowers. The fencing is probably closest to what I would like, where you can just map it out like this. Here, I think I was trying to give these people a little privacy, or like a back garden of some sort, away from their neighbors, since everybody's packed pretty tight in here, admittedly. I also wanted to fit a slide in here for some kids, but I just could not get it to work the way I wanted to, so I ended up using this a little bit later, which you'll see. I ended up also becoming obsessed with the hedge decoration, or fencing, and just lining everything with it. I don't know why, it just looks so cute, and it's the perfect height and like not very intrusive, so I wanted to fit this in wherever I could. And again, all of the fencing is easy decoration points too. So I ended up putting it like all along the marketplace borders and whatnot. I think I did end up changing this to be like on the lining of the path and not outside of it. Also, these As you can see, straight lines really are not my forte. But I think these ended up looking pretty cute regardless, and they bring a little pop of color into the place, which I like. So I was trying to incorporate them wherever I could. A new request? I don't want to play hide and seek. Don't you like it anymore? Of course I do, but there's no pretty flowers. Oh, I want to hide in bushes with flowers. What does that have to do with hide and seek? Fair point. I just wanna. Oh yeah, and this is when we got one of my favorite areas. And also learned about the ability to set areas. I thought this was cool. You can kind of, for some quests, you can pick and choose where you want them to apply, like this one. So I went with the lake because at this point I had decided I wanted the lake to kind of be a, you know, a nice like scenic nature park type of place. So I knew I was going to end up having a lot more of the trees and bushes and stuff all gathered around here. But then I realized I thought I gave myself like a big area to work with. And at a certain point realized it's actually not. There's not a whole bunch of room. And I also wanted to make like a sort of trail or path around the lake, so I ended up moving all of the bushes out further again so I could give some fencing and whatnot. And I really like the fencing tool in this game. They make it really easy to make virtually any shape. Like I'm able to follow the lake pretty closely here and like still keep the fence is like able to follow the natural shape of the lake, which I like, and it's very easy to adjust things. But yeah, what do you think of my town so far? We've come a long way from those initial 3 houses, I must say. Still not looking very luscious yet, but we're getting there. And here was the final test. Connecting the fences at the end is probably the only tricky part, getting them to line up. Like you can see here, I'm trying my best to make them overlap, but not look too crazy. Then I decided to finally try a new type of path and add this little dirt texture all around the, what is the word? Perimeter. The perimeter of the lake, so that the townsfolk can theoretically take a walk around the lake and enjoy the view. I think this was pretty, I mean, I think the unevenness kind of works. I think I went back at some point to smooth this out, but yeah, I wanted to have like a little trail of some sort for people to walk along. And then I went back to finish the quest that I had, that I was meant to be doing. That being said, I will probably rearrange all of these bushes, but... Alright, Lottie, what do you think of my not so hard work? Hide and seek smells great now with all these flower bushes. Oh, I want to play! I still don't know what this has to do with hide and seek. So rude, Jeffrey. Some people simply like flowers. Thanks. No problem. Wow, these kids had $100? I didn't realize. But yes, I was super keen then to get the bakery in place because it's just a really gorgeous building. And the clothing shop was gonna have to go. I kind of abandoned it in favor of the bakery. And at first, what I thought would work was if I put the clothing shop behind it and had like a little path, kind of like you would have on an actual street, I guess. But this became a bit of an issue when I actually placed the bakery. But when I dragged my eraser over the tiles, I had a little flash of inspiration to make like a central, what would you even call this? I don't know, a central area where I could put like a big tree and some flowers and stuff around for the marketplaces to be kind of centered around. And I thought that would be cute. Getting it symmetrical though, getting it to actually be right in the middle, I think I did an okay job. It's probably not perfect, but yeah, I started messing around with some of the trees. The large trees, they really aren't kidding. They're quite large. A little too big, I think, for the town center. So I ended up going for one of the medium trees that looked a little bit more to scale with the stalls and people, just so that you can actually see the marketplace when it's been planted. But yeah, I wanted to put like a little decorative, you know, some fencing, little potted plants and whatnot. The only thing is getting... I don't know why. I had such a hard time getting this fencing to be straight lines yet again, even though it's such a small area. But I think it's not the worst. It's not too bad. I think I actually fiddled with it too much, probably. But yeah, it was a little tricky getting the flowers to sit exactly right, so I think whatever shadow the tree casts, it's kind of hard to get anything, you can't get anything directly underneath the tree, so at a certain point I switched to using these small baby flowers just to like fill them in where I could. And you can see me just kind of trying my luck basically wherever they would work and get them to fit. But yes, I love the randomized feature when it comes to the decorating. That kind of like cycles through different color variations. This is me adding a second fruit stall because, not because we need it, but just because it was... I don't like odd numbers. I like it to be symmetrical. Despite my attempts not to make everything super orderly and symmetrical. Some things I just, you know, some things I can't change and I need them to be a certain way. But yeah, I was able to add these potted flowers on the corner at least, so it gives it a little bit of an intentional look about the place. I also fell so in love with these hedge archways that had the flowers running through them. Really, really pretty. And they're not like a perfect match for the fence, but I still like them a lot. Then we actually got a request from one of the villagers about setting up a bakery. Don't you just love that wonderful bread smell? And I mean fresh bread, the freshest. There's nothing better. If only Mom would bake us some every morning, but I guess that's never going to happen. Oh. Could you do something about this? Of course I can. Except the issue was... So this quest had a fixed area where it centered around the resident's house, but I really did not want to build my bakery over here. I was so picky. I had my location in mind, you know. I wanted to build it here at all costs and have it be like the centerpiece of the town. And I'm sorry to Colin. I ended up... You know what? Actually, I'm not sorry to Colin. I ended up reworking a lot of my town in order to install his bakery here, so... Yeah, we had to make a lot of changes, including giving the clothing shop a little bit more room to breathe. And then my beloved research center, I ended up having to move this as well. I tried to see if I could get it further back, but I think even if I had managed to get it a little further back, it wouldn't have worked. And as you can see, this bakery had kind of gotten a little bit in the way of the paving and whatnot, so it was just not meant to be for the research center. So what I ended up doing was a bit of a swap around, where I decided I would take the research center and my mayor's house and swap the two of them, because, I mean, the mayor's house is still a very gorgeous building, and I think it still makes a good focal point, a nice view to stumble upon as you leave the market. So yeah, I ended up swapping everything around. Just out of pure stubbornness, honestly. At this point, I was just so determined to see it through and have my bakery where I wanted it to be. I was willing to sacrifice everything in exchange. So after a while, this is kind of how the path behind the bakery ended up looking. Not perfect. I did move that bush though, don't worry. While I was trying to find a way to get Colin's house closer to the bakery, I had another request that ended up stealing my attention, of course, from Daniela. Every tree in the neighborhood looks the same. They're all leafy. How about we plant a bunch of pine trees to spruce up our town? Oh, nice pun. Oh, there are too many spruces, you think? No, too many oaks. We need pines. I have some saplings and mulch lying around. Mayor, could you plant 10 pine trees around here? So I decided I would plant the pine trees over here, but not just yet, because I had other quests. I was trying so hard to make Colin happy. I was rearranging houses all along this road, trying to, fit him in as close to the marketplace as I could, thinking that it might be enough for him, but alas, nothing was ever good enough. So in the meantime, I decided I would plant my pine trees and see how they looked, and I was shocked at how big these trees were compared to even some of the previous ones. But these really came in handy later when I wanted to fill in some space, at the back of buildings or between streets and stuff, or like around the cliff sides to kind of cut myself off, to be honest, because I could have just played this demo for far too long and just keep building and building. So at a certain point I built myself a border of trees, and that was sort of my self-assigned cutoff point where I would stop building for a while. But yeah, these made great filler, which I was very happy about. It feels rude calling things filler, but it's a good thing in decorating games. You need your filler items. But you'll see a lot more of these towards the end of the video, but for now we just went with these ones. At this point, I will admit, I decided to try my hand at cheating and moved Colin's house over to see if that would work and be able to move it later. He was so happy though. Every time I go outside, it's like I'm stepping into a loaf of freshly baked bread. I love it. So I, right away, after completing the quest, I was like, what if I am able to, can I just move him back with no consequence? And the answer is yes. So if you have a villager that's, threatening to ruin your layout or how you like things, you can move them into the quest area and then move them back out again with no issue whatsoever. So it's very handy in that way. Here I was trying to make a loop around the lake that, again, I wanted it to be a natural curving kind of shape and to meet the road that you see up there, to sort of close off the park / lake / recreational area. And then that way I could also fit in more houses going around the lake, ideally. So this is where I decided the main entrance for the lake picnic area would be, and I wanted it to be shrouded in trees and have a pretty narrow entrance leading into it, so I was trying to pack them as tightly as I could. I still had dozens more trees to plant, but I kind of decided to break it up into pieces just so that it wasn't too tedious of a job, and mix in planting bushes, planting flowers and stuff, and then go back to trees and whatnot. Mostly because I also didn't want to fill up too much of one thing and then not have room for anything else, if that makes sense. So this is how it looks now, filled in a little bit more with trees and whatnot. Still have to put the flowers in, but I quite like how it looks, this view from the station. And then we installed a whole bunch of houses going around. I don't know if it makes much sense to have a house that's facing across the road from a park, but I mean, I don't think I would mind it in real life, so these people can enjoy it. But yeah, I decided to fill in the street lamps across from them as well, just so I could have more room to put plants and things between their houses. And I'm also just really into how the lanterns look in between the trees. I don't know, it reminds me of being in a city park. It is hard to space them evenly though, as you can see. But yeah, I liked having this kind of entrance that it kind of leads back out into the road and to the marketplace from here. And then of course we had to give some decorations. I think I kind of did all of the decorating in spurts of inspiration. Like I was pretty bad for not decorating houses as I went, but then suddenly I would just be like, oh, I have to decorate, and would just like spoil the current batch of houses with a whole bunch of different things. I think it was around this point that I finally realized I could decorate the second floor, or the first floor even. But yeah, I was really obsessed with putting little benches and stuff and imagining everybody, you know, being able to talk from balcony to balcony and hang out together. Oh, there it is. There's the realization. It finally occurred to me, oh, I can put things on the first floor. Then I ended up rearranging my marketplace yet again, just to make the layout make a little bit more sense to me, that people could come in and out more easily through all of the different archways and whatnot. So it looks a little strange without another 2 stalls on the right-hand side maybe, but that gives them access to the clothing store without it being blocked off. So it's a price I'm willing to pay. But yeah, I quite liked, I'm glad I stuck to this idea of having like a central hub and then building on the town center from here. I ended up I bought a butcher just because I had the points to, and why not? And I figured it would look pretty nice next to the warehouses. They kind of have a similar, I don't know why, they have the similar vibe to me. But I didn't end up getting to set up the butchers in the demo yet, so I have no idea if there are different mechanics involved or anything. Not really sure. I kind of just added it to fill in the town a little bit more, and then connected everything up with this extra little path in here. Not the most efficient of pathways, I might add, but if it means everything is connected and people have less of a walk between where they have to go, then I don't know, maybe they'll appreciate it. It's also just really satisfying to connect everything up like this. So at this point, I wanted to turn my eye more towards decorating and filling in a lot of the spaces with paths and different items and whatnot. So I added some benches all around the lake for anybody, you know, taking a walk or who just wants to sit and read a book by the lake. Kind of inspired by a place near to where I live. I always see little old people sitting and reading their books, and it looks nice and tranquil. Oh, and I was so happy that I realized this. If you put flowers in the water, the game will turn them into lily pads with little lotuses blooming on them. So as you can see, I started filling in a whole bunch of them right away. This is another part that reminded me a lot of Tiny Glade, where just moving things around and experimenting with where you place them can lead to some very interesting discoveries, or just a whole nother use for a certain item that you thought you had everything. You thought you'd seen everything, but not quite. And here I finally got to use some of the park decorations, including the slide, so this seemed like a safe enough area to have it not by a main road where people would be walking. Maybe I was thinking too logistically about it, but I don't know. I think it makes sense to have it in a spot like this rather than out in the open, maybe. And then I wanted to have, again, sort of inspired by a park I've been to a bunch, I wanted to set down like a whole bunch of picnic tables, and I kind of got obsessed with the idea of having them surrounded by flowers as much as I could. So I was trying to get them spaced evenly to where you could have like a couple of families and they're close enough to like sit and chat with each other if they want, or just do their own thing as well. Oh, and another thing I figured out, you can get the tiny plants to be little potted plants on top of tables, which I'm sure will come in handy elsewhere too, but I decided to give them all one each. And somewhere along the way I got distracted and decided to add these wooden benches to our little marketplace. What are we calling this? The town tree. Like in New Leaf. But I thought they looked like they would add to the centerpiece, you know? I like that. I also went back to decorating the townsfolk's houses because I realized I had been neglecting a couple of them. And in my experimenting, I ended up finding another use for the plants that I quite liked. I think it was on this house that you'll see. I think I was trying to make... How did this come about? I think I was trying to make a windowsill, and then I saw this, and I was like, never mind, I'll use this. Even better. And then I started giving it to basically everybody. But they might look a little strange. They're like a little higher up than I would have imagined them being, but who knows? Maybe if I had made better use of the... There is an upgrade you can get where you can expand the amount of floors in the houses, and maybe then it would be easier to have them like still hanging like on a windowsill, but under the windows rather than over them. I don't know. Oh, I also realized I could use the clipping to make like a big plant pot into half the length and have it sort of go through the walls. And it doesn't look too bad, I don't think. So everybody got a bit of a flower upgrade. And you can see all of my favorite color combinations. I think I almost exclusively gave red houses yellow flowers, and then white houses got purple flowers. And then this neighbor, I decided he would be a little bit more closed off and not as sociable. He doesn't have a bench to sit out and talk with people. I gave him a big sunflower plant to block people off, actually. And then the last upgrade that I got for the demo and for the day was this giant fountain. And now you can see me realizing, where am I going to put it? Because it really is giant. Look at this thing. How was I going to put this in the plaza? If I had planned ahead and known that I would get this, I probably would have made the marketplace bigger, but at that point I was so unwilling to change it again. So I kind of went for this. It doesn't really make sense, the location, but I just decided, you know what? I'm just going to make it work. I'm going to put this fountain in the corner, and I guess the people who work in the warehouses and the butcher, they can enjoy the nice view. They can sit by the fountain on their lunch break and enjoy it. But I do wish I had looked ahead at what I could have bought, or just realized that it would be so massive before taking it on. So after finally getting the ground in order, the fountain just about fit. We just barely made it work. So I ended up having to go back and adjust some of this, of course, but I decided to at least get it built for now and see if I can make it a little more spacious looking and not so cramped. But I put it too close to the hill here, which ended up being an issue because, as you can see, it doesn't quite, can't quite make a corner. But at the same time, you know, no one's gonna see it. And then here I was also, I think as I mentioned before, trying to give myself a bit of a cutoff point because I knew that I would just play for hours and hours if I didn't give myself somewhere as a cutoff point. So eventually I just decided, okay, I need to place down some fencing and just give myself a limitation for Like, I think I had been playing this over the course of 3 afternoons in total, or evenings after work, and I was just like, I'm just gonna keep going and I'll never actually get to like share what I've built. So this was me introducing my own limits of like a border of sorts for my town, just to give myself, to not let myself get too carried away and make something out of control. And so because I knew where I was stopping, I was able to, you know, just build the last of my roads and place the last of my houses and not have to worry about it. I kind of just decided I would stop moving new people in at a certain point. Although I would like to go back on my own time and see if I can get the 100% happiness and even more villagers. Here I was really in my, I had a landlord moment where I was like, what if I can just squeeze one more house, even though it's like probably terribly unsafe to have it built this close to a cliff. But you know, needs must. I had 2 families waiting at the train station for me, so. Plus, it's really easy to, I really like the fence tool in this game. It's very easy to go back and keep adjusting it and get rid of it or whatever you have to do. And that means we were able to fit this other family in here. But wow, looking at it now, compared to when we began today, what progress we've made. We actually look like a real town now. Just missing a couple of decorations though. And this is when I remembered my idea for the picnic tables surrounded by flowers, so I started filling in the edges first before moving on to the land inside of the trees. And so, as I said, you have to place every flower patch individually. So several real life minutes later, this is the progress of filling in all these flowers. As I say, this part, if you want to make fields or meadows and things like that, be ready to spend a lot of time on it until any like changes come through, because at the moment all of these have to be placed individually. I think it's worth it for the look, but definitely takes a bit of time. And then I connected these 2. I wanted the entrance here to match the entrance at the train station end of town, that you can enter and leave either way, and dotted some single flowers just to like, it's kind of hard to end flower fields and things like that, so the single flowers came in handy here, where they sort of just trail off into the smaller ones. Very nice to be able to place like nearly pixel by pixel where you want them to go. So do let me know what you think of my flower patch. Would you have a picnic in a spot like this? Would your hay fever get to you like mine would? And would you risk it regardless? Oh, I quite like the bushes too. I ended up using a lot more of these scattered throughout the town. They're just a really good size. And this is my attempt to make the fountain area look a little bit more official and part of the town. I think it worked. I probably could have done with adding a little more decoration around there. But I think by this point I was more focused on just getting like the town overall rather than focusing way too much on one specific area, just to like upgrade the town bit by bit as a whole. Oh, and I believe here is where I finally noticed that you can also change the color of the flowers on these hedgeway arches. So I ended up going with a nice red flower to match the rooftops. Isn't it cute? I need these in my town. Then for the empty spaces behind like rows of houses, the large trees and the pine trees came in very handy just to fill in the space and also give them a little bit of separation. Kind of gave up on the notion of giving people backyards. I also decided to make this join up just to make everything nice and easy to get to. And so at the end of the day, this is what my town to city ended up looking like. After adding a lot more trees and flowers here and there, bushes, you can see all in the background, it's all filled in with those handy dandy pine trees. But yeah, I think it came out pretty well. For someone who is not a city builder by trade, I think I did a good job. Maybe some of the roads don't make sense or are not perfect, but I think I would live here. I think I would enjoy living in this little Mediterranean town. So here's the neighborhood where I decided to end things. And if I do ever decide to keep on building, in the demo, there's a whole lot more land that we can build up on. But yeah, I really liked how the marketplace came out and the park surrounding the lake. All of those flowers that I placed lovingly. It was worth it. It was worth it in the end. But yeah, please let me know what you thought of the demo. I can't believe actually that this is just the demo. Like, can you imagine how beautiful the full game is gonna be? I'm very excited for the full release. And of course, when it does come out, I'll be sure to let you guys know and share what I've been building. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Are you gonna give the demo a try yourself, or are you gonna wait for the full release? Would you live in my hamlet of Bellevaux? Let me know, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye bye.